Jack had never believed in aliens. He was a regular guy, living in a small town with a simple job, a few friends, and a normal life. But one night, that all changed. It started with a strange, bright light in the sky. At first, Jack thought it was just another passing plane, maybe one of those new military jets. But as he stood outside his house, staring up, he realized something was off. The light was too big, too steady. It didn't move like anything he'd ever seen before, and then it happened. A loud, booming noise filled the air, and before Jack could even react, everything went dark. When he opened his eyes again, he wasn't on Earth anymore. His surroundings were cold, metallic, and unrecognizable. Jack's heart raced as he tried to make sense of what was happening. He tried to move, but his body felt weak, as if gravity was stronger than it should be. He looked around, his mind trying to piece things together, but the scene in front of him was something out of a nightmare. He was inside a massive room. No, it was more like a hall. The walls were smooth, shiny, and glowing with an unnatural light. There were strange symbols etched into the walls, symbols he couldn't begin to understand. The air smelled sterile, like something was constantly being cleaned. The floor beneath him was hard, cold, and metallic. Jack tried to stand, but his legs felt like they were made of jelly. As he stumbled to his feet, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from behind him. He spun around, panic flooding his veins. A creature stood there, tall and broad, with dark black eyes that seemed to pierce through him. Its skin was pale and smooth, almost like porcelain. Its face had no real features other than two wide, emotionless eyes and a small, almost invisible mouth. The creature's body was humanoid, but the proportions were off. Its arms were too long, its fingers too slender, and its posture slightly hunched. It was the kind of being that shouldn't exist, yet there it stood, staring at Jack. Jack's breath hitched in his throat. What? ... What is this? He whispered to himself. The creature didn't answer. Instead, it motioned toward a door on the far side of the room. Jack didn't move at first, his legs trembling beneath him, but the creature's unblinking gaze pushed him forward. He took a tentative step toward the door, then another, and before he knew it, he was crossing the threshold, walking into what could only be described as a nightmare. The room beyond was even stranger. The walls were now transparent, showing a vast, starry expanse. The stars were different, though. They were not like the ones Jack had seen from Earth. Some were too big, some too small, and others seemed to shimmer in strange patterns, like they were moving. Jack couldn't stop himself from staring at the sky, mesmerized by the sight. Suddenly, the floor beneath him began to move. It wasn't a traditional floor, but a platform that seemed to be hovering in midair. Jack's stomach lurched as he felt the sudden change in direction. The platform was lifting, taking him higher and higher into the sky. He wanted to scream, to shout for help, but nothing came out. His body was paralyzed with fear. The creature didn't follow him on the platform. Instead, it stood by the door. Watching him silently, Jack's mind was racing. What was happening? Why was he here? Where was he? None of it made sense. As the platform rose, Jack saw something that made his heart skip a beat. There in the distance was a ship, a massive alien ship. It was unlike anything he had ever seen in any science fiction movie. It was sleek, angular, and glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light. Its surface was covered in symbols and patterns that twisted and changed as if alive. The ship seemed to be calling him, drawing him toward it, and Jack had no choice but to follow. The platform carried him closer, and as he drew nearer to the ship, Jack could see other creatures standing on the ship's deck. There were more of them, and they were all watching him. They had the same emotionless faces, the same dark eyes. Jack could feel their gaze on him, a cold, unwelcoming presence. When the platform finally reached the ship, a door opened automatically, and Jack was ushered inside. He stepped onto the alien vessel, his heart pounding in his chest. Everything was too much, too strange, too terrifying. A loud, mechanical voice suddenly filled the air. It wasn't in any language Jack recognized, but somehow he understood. It was clear, it was simple. "You are the test subject," it said. Jack's body froze as the words sank in. He was a test subject? But for what? What kind of test was this? His mind spun, and he could feel his breathing become shallow. Every instinct in his body told him to run, to fight, to do anything to escape, but it was too late. He was trapped. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss, and Jack was left alone in the cold alien ship. He had no idea where he was, what they wanted, or what was going to happen to him. All he knew was that his life, as he had known it, was over. As the ship moved forward, Jack's fear began to grow. He could only hope that somehow he would survive whatever the aliens had planned for him. The silence in the alien ship was deafening. Jack had no idea how much time had passed since he was taken. The cold, metallic walls of his cell reflected his fear, and the feeling of hopelessness clung to him like a shadow. But in that eerie stillness, something shifted. The sound of machinery groaning to life echoed through the ship. The floor beneath him began to vibrate, and a hidden door slid open in front of him. A creature, a being that looked like something straight out of a nightmare, stepped through the doorway. This was no alien like the ones he had seen before. Its skin was scaled and seemed to shimmer with every movement. It had 3 glowing eyes, all staring directly at him, and it moved with an unsettling grace that made Jack's skin crawl. This was the beast, the one that the aliens had spoken about in their cold, emotionless voices. "Your turn," the creature's voice echoed, its tone low and guttural. It was clear that it wasn't offering him a choice. Without a word, Jack was herded forward, the sensation of the floor beneath him shifting again. This wasn't just a ship, it was a living, breathing arena. The walls slowly pulled back, revealing a massive coliseum-like space filled with alien spectators. They were silent, their eyes fixed on Jack, as if they were waiting for something terrible. Jack's heart began to pound. The arena was massive, stretching far into the distance. At the center, a huge pit was surrounded by high walls, the air thick with the smell of something alien, something primal. The spectators, made up of countless strange species, didn't cheer or jeer. They merely watched, their alien eyes cold and unblinking. Suddenly, a loud, booming voice echoed from the ceiling. "Welcome, human," it said, the words dripping with mockery. "You are here to entertain. Will you survive, or will you fall?" To the beast, a strange chill sensation crept down Jack's spine. He looked down at his hands. They were trembling. This was no accident. The aliens hadn't just captured him, they had brought him here to die for their entertainment. He wasn't a prisoner. He was the star of their twisted game. And yet, despite the terror rising in his chest, Jack couldn't help but notice something. The beast, standing at the far side of the arena, was watching him not with hunger or malice, but with an odd sense of curiosity. It was as if it was studying him, as if it was waiting for something. Was it waiting for Jack to make the first move? Without warning, the ground beneath him rumbled, and a massive door at the far end of the arena slammed open. The beast moved, its body twisting with a speed Jack never thought possible. The creature lunged toward him, its eyes fixed on him like a predator locking onto its prey. Jack's body surged with adrenaline. His instincts kicked in. Every fight-for-flight response in his body screamed at him to run, but running wouldn't save him. The beast was faster, stronger. He had no chance of outrunning it. He had to fight. He had to survive. But how? In that moment, Jack's survival instincts began to take over. He didn't have a weapon, nothing to defend himself with, but he had something else. He had his mind. His body might have been weaker, but his brain, his resourcefulness, could still give him a fighting chance. Jack dove to the side, narrowly, dodging the beast's massive claws as they slashed through the air where he had been standing just a moment before. The ground trembled with the force of the beast's landing, and the arena was filled with a low, guttural growl. It was circling him now, its glowing eyes narrowing as it prepared for another strike. He couldn't keep dodging forever. He had to do something. Anything. Then he saw Eton, the far side of the arena. Partially hidden by the shadows was a set of large, sharp rocks. They were heavy, jagged, and would make the perfect weapon. If he could get to them before the beast struck again, he might just have a chance. Jack took a deep breath and sprinted toward the rocks, the sound of the beast's footfalls pounding behind him. The crowd of aliens cheered now, their voices rising in anticipation. It was as though they were all waiting to see how this would play out. Would Jack survive? Or would he become just another casualty in their twisted sport?
Jack reached the
Rocks just as the beast lunged at him. He grabbed the largest one he could find, its jagged edges biting into his hand as he turned, facing the massive creature. The beast was closer now, too close. Jack swung the rock at its head, desperation. Flooding his every movement, the rock connected with a sickening thud, sending a shockwave of pain through Jack's arm. The beast staggered back, momentarily stunned, its glowing eyes flashing with confusion. For a brief second, time seemed to slow. Jack had done it, he had struck the beast, but the real test was just beginning. The creature's growl grew louder, its anger boiling over. It wasn't going to back down, and neither was Jack. As the beast roared, charging once more, Jack knew this wasn't just a fight for his life, it was a fight for his very survival. The arena fell into an eerie silence as Jack stood facing the beast, his chest heaving with rapid breaths. The creature's massive form loomed before him, its three eyes glowing with a mix of confusion and fury. The pain from his earlier strike had begun to throb in Jack's arm, but he ignored it. There was no time for weakness, no time for fear. The beast was circling him, watching him closely, and Jack knew that if he didn't act fast, this wouldn't end well. It was strange. Just moments ago, this beast was a mindless predator, a creature meant to destroy him. But now, something had shifted. The way the beast watched him, almost with a sense of curiosity, made Jack hesitate. There was intelligence behind those glowing eyes, something more than raw instinct. Jack had no choice. He couldn't defeat the beast with brute force, but maybe, just maybe, he could outsmart it. Had to connect with it, to communicate in a way that the aliens had never expected. They thought he would fight the beast as an enemy, but Jack realized something: the beast wasn't the real enemy here. The aliens were. He lowered the rock in his hand, his eyes not leaving the beast's. The creature paused, its massive form still, as though waiting for Jack's next move. For a long moment, the two stood there, staring at each other, man and beast connected by nothing but sheer will. Then Jack did something completely unexpected. He took a step forward, slowly, carefully. He didn't rush or make sudden movements. He kept his body relaxed, his posture open. He was no longer a human who was fighting for his life. He was just a living being, offering a moment of trust to another. The beast watched him, its eyes narrowing. Jack took another step, his heartbeat echoing in his ears. The crowd of aliens, who had been watching in hushed silence, began to murmur. In confusion, they had never seen a human do this before. They were used to seeing the humans struggle and die, to seeing them fight tooth and nail to survive. But Jack was doing something they hadn't anticipated. He was trying to connect. Jack was inches away from the beast now. His breath came slow, measured. He could feel the heat radiating off its enormous body. The creature sniffed the air, its nostrils flaring, and Jack waited. He knew he couldn't rush it. He had to let the beast make the decision. And then, as if by instinct, Jack extended his hand palm open toward the creature. The beast's eyes flickered. For a moment, Jack thought it would attack, but instead the creature hesitated. Its massive body shifted, and it took a slow, cautious step toward him. Jack's heart skipped a beat. Was it really happening? The beast's nose touched the palm of Jack's hand. It was a strange, gentle gesture, something that no one, not even Jack, had expected. The crowd fell silent as they watched, mesmerized by the unfolding moment. Jack didn't dare move. He didn't want to break the connection, didn't want to ruin this fragile bond that was forming between him and the beast. Then, with a sudden shift of energy, the beast leaned in closer, its massive head tilting as it studied Jack's face. The eyes that had once burned with fury were now softened, as though seeing him for the first time. The creature let out a low rumble, almost like a purr, and Jack, still holding its gaze, felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. But the connection was more than just a physical one. It was as if in that moment Jack understood the creature. On a deeper level, the beast had been trapped in this arena for who knew how long. It had been forced to fight for the entertainment of the aliens, stripped of its freedom. In Jack, it saw something that it hadn't seen in centuries, the possibility of freedom. Jack took a deep breath and slowly moved his other hand toward the beast's face. It didn't know if the creature would allow it, but it did. It's rough. Skin felt warm under his fingers, and Jack could feel the faint vibrations of its muscles as they relaxed under his touch. Slowly, he began to run his hand along its jawline, a quiet bond forming between them. The beast's growls had softened into something gentler, a low rumble that resonated like a peaceful hum. It was as though the creature had chosen to trust Jack, to accept his presence rather than view him as a threat. Jack smiled, realizing that against all odds, he had succeeded. He had tamed the beast not with violence, but with understanding. The crowd of alien spectators had been watching the entire exchange, and now their murmurs grew louder. They didn't know what to make of it. This wasn't the entertainment they had expected. This wasn't a brutal fight to the death. This wasn't a human cowering before their might. Instead, they were witnessing a human and a beast forging an unexpected alliance. Jack stepped back, keeping his hand on the beast's head for a moment longer. It was clear now that this was no ordinary battle. The beast wasn't his enemy, it was his ally. Together, they would show the aliens that they had underestimated humanity. They had expected a creature to die, but instead they had helped create a bond that would change everything. Jack looked up at the alien spectators, his eyes burning with determination. He wasn't going to just survive, he was going to make them regret ever underestimating him. The arena, once filled with cold silence, now buzzed with the hum of uncertainty. The aliens didn't know it yet, but they were about to witness something extraordinary, and Jack wasn't going to let them forget it. The tension in the arena had shifted. It's what was supposed to be a blood sport, a show of violence and death. It turned into something unexpected, something that had caught the aliens off guard. Jack and the beast, now standing side by side, radiated an aura of defiance that rippled through the atmosphere. The crowd of alien spectators, their faces expressionless, yet filled with curiosity, murmured amongst themselves. They were confused, stunned, and for the first time in the history of this cruel arena, they didn't know how to react. The leader of the aliens, a towering figure with a shimmering silver exoskeleton, stepped forward from the shadows, his voice booming across the stadium. "Enough," he commanded. His tone filled with an authority that sent a wave of silence over the crowd. His eyes, glowing with an unsettling yellow hue, locked onto Jack. This is not how it was supposed to be. This human should be dead by now. This behavior is an anomaly. Jack stood tall, feeling the weight of the alien leader's gaze. His heart was pounding, not from fear, but from the surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. Was no longer just about surviving. This was about proving something. The aliens had underestimated him. They thought they could break him, force him to fight for their amusement. But now, they had created something they couldn't control. The alien leader continued, his words dripping with disdain. "You think you can tame the beast? You think you can subdue the very forces of nature we have bred to break you? You are nothing more than a pet, a tool for our entertainment." Jack's jaw tightened. He wasn't going to let the leader's words get to him. He wasn't just some pet, some pawn in their twisted game. He had proven that by taming the beast, and he wasn't about to back down now. With a steady voice, Jack replied, "I'm not your tool. I'm not your pet. I'm the one who decides what happens here. You may control the arena, but you don't control me." The alien leader's expression hardened, his eyes narrowing. He motioned to his subordinates who were silently observing. "The exchange, you dare speak back to me? You are a human, a species barely capable of surviving the trials of this arena. Yet somehow, you've managed to tame the beast." A ripple of unease spread through the alien ranks, and for a brief moment, Jack could see the fear in their eyes. They had expected the beast to tear him apart, but instead, they were faced with a human who had done the impossible. A human who had become more than just a participant in their game. Jack had become the symbol of something they hadn't anticipated, a force they couldn't control. The leader's voice grew colder, more calculating. You've shown us something unexpected, human. But don't think for a second that this changes anything. You're still our prisoner. It's still our arena. With a flick of his wrist, the leader signaled for the gates of the arena to open once again. The ground beneath Jack's feet began to tremble. From the shadows emerged something even more terrifying than the beast. A new challenger. A creature so large and menacing that the crowd collectively gasped. Its body was a grotesque mix of insectoid and reptilian features, its eyes glowing with a sickly green light. Its limbs were thick, powerful, and covered in armored plating that seemed to reflect the arena's eerie lights. The crowd erupted in a low hum, their anticipation palpable. Jack's gaze flickered between the beast and the new creature. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. This was a test, a final showdown to prove who was the true victor in the arena. The alien leader's voice boomed once more. This is your last trial, human. You will face this creature, or you will die. And your precious beast, it will be forced to fight as well. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He had been hoping that his connection with the beast would earn him some leeway. But now the aliens were making it clear they had no intention of letting him off easy. They were forcing him into a battle he couldn't afford to lose, not just for himself, but for the beast as well. The beast, sensing the gravity of the situation, growled low, its muscles tense and ready to spring. It had bonded with Jack, and despite the odds, it was willing to fight beside him. The two were no longer just human and creature. They were partners, allies in a battle they couldn't afford to lose. The alien leader's face twisted into a smirk. I hope you've learned your place, human. This is the end for you. Jack didn't hear him.
Yes.
His focus was entirely on the creature in front of him. His mind raced, calculating every possible move. He had to think fast. He had to survive, not just for himself, but for the beast, his companion, his ally. The one thing in this strange world that had stood by him when no one else had, as the creature charged toward him. Its claws outstretched. Jack's instincts kicked in. He had fought before. He had fought on Earth, in his own way, with his mind, his resourcefulness. He had survived fights, challenges, and adversity. But this was something entirely different. The alien leader watched. With bated breath, certain that the human's time had come, the crowd fell silent, eager to witness the end of the human's defiance. But what the aliens didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that Jack had already won. It wasn't the beast that made him strong. It was his will, his refusal, to be broken. And now, it was time for him to show the aliens just how wrong they were. As the creature lunged, Jack and the beast were ready. This fight wasn't about survival. It was about proving something far greater, that no matter how powerful the aliens thought they were, they couldn't control him or the beast. The arena roared as the battle began, and the aliens, for the first time, began to wonder if they had made a grave mistake. The roars of the arena echoed in Jack's ears as he and the beast fought side by side against the terrifying creature sent to challenge them. Every strike, every roar, every swing of the beast's powerful limbs seemed to shake the very foundations of the arena. The audience sat and cold-watched in stunned silence, their faces fixed on the battle unfolding before them. Jack's heart pounded in his chest, but it wasn't fear he felt. It was determination. Together with the beast, they had become an unstoppable force. Nothing would break them now, but just as victory seemed within reach, the ground beneath them began to shake, not from the battle, but from something much worse. Jack's eyes flickered upward to the alien leader, who stood watching from a high platform. His face twisted into an expression of cold calculation. Something was wrong. The tension in the air had shifted, and Jack could feel it. The aliens weren't just watching the fight, they were waiting for something. They had a plan. Before Jack could react, the loud mechanical voice from earlier filled the arena once again, its tone colder than ever. Enough. The words echoed through the stadium, cutting through the battle's chaos like a sharp blade. Jack froze, his heart skipping a beat. His instincts screamed that this wasn't part of the fight, that something far darker was unfolding. A series of loud, metallic clanks sounded from all around, and the ground rumbled again. Suddenly, Large gates on either side of the arena swung open with a deafening screech. Jack barely had time to process what was happening before the floor began to retract, opening up into a dark pit that had previously been hidden beneath the arena. From the depths of that pit, something emerged. It was a shadow, a hulking figure, that seemed to materialize from the darkness itself. A new threat. One so large and monstrous that even the beast seemed to pause for a moment, its glowing eyes widening. The alien leader's voice boomed once more. "You think you've won, human? You've only survived the first test? Now, face the true challenge." Jack's pulse raced as the new creature stepped into the arena. It was enormous, with rippling muscles and sharp, jagged spines running down its back. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural, predatory hunger, and its body was covered in a thick, armored exoskeleton. It was like nothing Jack had ever seen, an abomination bred for destruction. The beast growled, a low, guttural sound that resonated in the pit of Jack's stomach. It wasn't afraid, but it was wary. This wasn't a battle of strength alone. This was a test of survival against something even more dangerous than before. But there was something. Jack hadn't anticipated something that made his blood run cold. As the massive creature lunged forward, the alien leader's voice cut through. The air filled with malice, and now the ultimate test. The beast will be forced to fight alongside you, but not as your ally. Jack's breath caught in his throat. His heart stopped as the realization hit him like a freight train. Aliens weren't just testing him, they were betraying him. They had set the beast up as the enemy, without warning. The arena's floor split open once again, and chains shot out, wrapping around the beast's massive limbs. The creature struggled, its muscles straining against the restraints, but the chains held firm. Jack's eyes widened in horror as the beast was yanked away from him. The bond they had forged moments earlier shattered in an instant. Jack shouted, rushing forward, but he was too late. The beast was now trapped, its movements restricted by the chains, forced into a position where it could no longer fight by Jack's side. The new creature, its eyes glowing with hunger, locked onto the beast. It was clear this wasn't just a battle for survival. This was a betrayal of the highest order. The aliens had set Jack up from the very beginning. They had never planned on letting him win. They had orchestrated this entire fight, and now they were forcing him to fight not just for his life, but for the very soul of his ally. The alien leader's cold laughter echoed through the arena. "You thought you had control, human. You thought you could tame the beast. But now, you will fight alone. You will die alone." Jack's heart burned with fury. He had been played, manipulated, and betrayed by the very beings who had promised him a chance at freedom. They had used him, and now they were going to watch him suffer. But there was one thing the aliens hadn't counted on. They hadn't counted on Jack's will to survive. They hadn't counted on the fire inside him, the drive that kept him fighting even when the odds were impossible. The aliens thought they had broken him, thought they had destroyed his hope. But they were wrong. The beast may have been taken from him, but Jack wasn't going to let it end like this. He wasn't going to let the aliens win. In that moment, Jack's eyes narrowed with a cold, determined resolve. He turned to face the alien leader, his voice low but full of fury. "You made a mistake," he said, his tone unwavering. "You think you've broken me, but you haven't. You'll regret this." The alien leader's eyes flickered, a momentary spark of uncertainty passing through him. But Jack didn't wait for a response. He launched himself toward the new creature, his body fueled by pure rage and a desperate need to survive. This fight was no longer about just him. It was about revenge. It was about showing the aliens that no matter how much they tried to break him, they couldn't. As the creature lunged at him with a terrifying roar, Jack's instincts took over. The betrayal may have shattered his heart, but it ignited a fire inside him that would burn until the very end. The battle had just begun, and Jack was ready to make the aliens regret ever underestimating him. The air in the arena grew thick with the tension of betrayal. Jack stood, his chest heaving, his body bruised and battered, but his spirit unbroken. The massive creature that had once been his ally, the beast, was now a prisoner. Its massive, form shackled and restrained by the alien forces. But the beast was not the only one in chains. Jack, too, was trapped. Trapped in an arena designed for destruction, designed to break him. The alien leader's voice, filled with unrelenting authority, echoed from the upper tiers of the arena. The human is defeated. The beast is contained. All that remains is to witness their inevitable destruction. The crowd of alien spectators began to murmur, their cold eyes fixed on Jack, waiting for the moment of his defeat. But Jack didn't look at them. His eyes were fixed on one thing: the exit, the massive doors at the far end of the arena. The gate that led outside to the unknown. Part of him knew it was impossible. Escape seemed like nothing more than a fantasy now. The alien forces had already anticipated his every move, and they had prepared for every eventuality. But the fire inside Jack burned hotter than ever. He wasn't going to die here. Not like this. Not at their hands. The beast's growls echoed in the distance, a painful reminder of what Jack had lost. His partner, his ally, had been taken, chained, down like an animal. But Jack refused to let that be the end. The beast had shown him one thing, that strength was more than just physical power. It was about the will to survive, the determination to push forward, no matter how impossible the situation seemed. Jack's eyes flicked toward the control panels lining the walls of the arena. He remembered the alien ship's layout from when he had first been brought aboard. He'd been paying attention, looking for weaknesses, searching for a way to turn the tables. The aliens had thought they had outsmarted him, but they had made a mistake. They had underestimated him. Without thinking twice, Jack moved. He darted toward a set of consoles near the edge of the arena. The alien soldiers, distracted by their victory, did not notice him. Their eyes were fixed on the beast, and their minds were already plotting the next stage of their cruel game. But Jack wasn't interested in playing anymore. He reached the console and slammed his fist against the buttons, using the force of his anger to crush the controls beneath his hand. The lights in the arena flickered, then dimmed. The walls began to shake. A warning klaxon blared in the distance, signaling the system's failure. The alien leader's voice boomed through the arena once again, but this time there was a note of panic in it. "What is this? What have you done?" Jack didn't answer. Instead, he sprinted toward the gate. The alarms were getting louder. The metal floor beneath him vibrating, as though the entire ship was on the verge of collapse. And it wasn't just the arena that was in turmoil. The entire ship was falling apart. The aliens' control over their surroundings was slipping, and for the first time, they didn't know how to stop it. The gate that had once seemed like an impossible dream was now in reach. Jack felt his pulse quicken as he approached, his muscles burning with exhaustion. He was nearly there, but the sound of heavy footsteps behind him froze him in place. He turned, his body tensing, ready to fight if necessary. But it wasn't an alien soldier who emerged from the shadows. Its massive form loomed in the doorway, its eyes glowing with a mix of fury and loyalty. The chains that had once held it were now broken, scattered on the floor. Around it, the beast had freed itself, and now was coming for Jack. Jack's heart skipped a beat as the creature strode toward him, its eyes never leaving his. For a moment, he felt a surge of fear, but then the beast lowered its head, a silent gesture of trust. It was back at his side. Together, they were unstoppable. Without a word, Jack and the beast charged toward the gate, the ship's alarms growing. Louder, the walls groaning in protest as they tore through the corridors. The sound of alien soldiers shouting in the distance only spurred them on. They didn't have much time. The ship was collapsing, and if they didn't escape now, they would never get out. As they ran, Jack could hear the chaos unfolding behind. The Malian ships being powered down, doors slamming shut, and the unmistakable sound of the aliens losing control. The entire vessel was crumbling, but Jack wasn't looking back. His focus was on the future, on the chance of freedom. They reached the control room just as the ship's power core began to destabilize. Jack knew that he didn't have much time. He jumped into the seat, quickly scanning the system for a way to pilot the ship. The beast growled beside him, a reminder that Jack was not alone in this. Together, they would make it out. Jack's hands flew over the controls, his heart racing as he engaged the escape sequence. The ship's engines rumbled to life, shaking violently as the power core began to implode. Jack didn't flinch. He kept his eyes on the controls, feeling the ship shift beneath him as it powered up. With a deafening roar, the alien vessel shot out of the atmosphere, tearing through space as the ship's system began to fail. The ground beneath them trembled, but Jack held firm. It wasn't just running from the aliens. It was running toward his freedom, toward the unknown. The stars outside the viewport stretched into streaks as the ship broke free from the collapsing vessel. As the dust of the alien ship's destruction faded behind them, Jack allowed himself a moment to breathe. The beast sat by his side, a loyal companion in this strange new world. Together, they had escaped. They had survived. And as they drifted toward the unknown, Jack realized one thing: this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, and he had a place in it now. The aliens had made one fatal mistake. They had underestimated the strength of humanity, and Jack was going to make sure they would never forget it. The stars outside the viewport stretched into infinite streaks of light as Jack piloted the stolen alien ship through the vastness of space. The weight of everything that had happened, the betrayal, the battles, the escape was still fresh in his mind, but there was a strange calm that settled over him now. He had survived. He had escaped. But survival wasn't enough. It's not anymore. The beast sat beside him, its massive form oddly peaceful as it lay on the floor near the ship's control panel, its glowing eyes scanning the stars. It had been through hell with him. Its loyalty had saved Jack more times than he could count. Now, it was as much a part of him as his own heartbeat. The bond they shared went beyond survival. It was a partnership, forged in the fires of battle and betrayal. Together they had endured, and together they would strike back. Jack's fingers flew over the controls as he charted a course toward the nearest habitable planet, Earth, his home. It had been weeks since he was torn from his world, but the journey back felt like the final leg of a long, impossible race. He had spent too long as a pawn in the hands of the aliens. Now it was time to make them pay. As the ship broke through the atmosphere and entered Earth's orbit, Jack's thoughts raced. He had been just one human among billions, an insignificant speck in the grand scheme of things. But the aliens had learned something. They had learned that humans were capable of more than they ever realized. That, despite their advanced technology and powerful weapons, there was something inside humanity that they couldn't control, something that made them relentless, something that made them survive. And Jack had become the symbol of that unyielding spirit. The aliens had wanted to break him, to prove their superiority, but instead, they had created a force they could never reckon with. Jack wasn't just a survivor. It was a message. He could see Earth now blue and green, a planet full of life and memories, a place he had longed to return to. He adjusted the ship's trajectory, setting it down on a remote location where he knew he would be able to gather the resources he needed. The world didn't know he was coming back. They didn't know what had happened to him, what he had been through. And they certainly didn't know what he had brought with him. The beast growled softly, and Jack's hand rested on the controls, a sense of purpose filling him. The aliens had thought they could break him. They had thought they could trap him in their games, in their arena of death. But they had only created something far more dangerous. As the ship touched down, the beast stood up, its towering form blocking the entrance as Jack prepared to exit. The ship was safe for now, but the war was far from over. Jack had a mission: to expose the aliens for what they were, to make sure humanity understood the threat that lurked beyond the stars. He stepped outside, his boots crunching on the rocky soil. Earth was silent, still and peaceful, in a way that made the brutality of the arena feel so far removed from his reality. For a moment, Jack closed his eyes, letting the cool wind wash over him, a small taste of freedom. But there was no time for rest. There was a war to win and a message to deliver. His eyes fell on the small, quiet town in the distance, a place he had called home. The memories of his life before the aliens had come flooding back. But those memories felt distant. Now, like a life he had lived in another world, he was no longer the man he had been. He had been forged in the fires of the alien arena, and he would use everything he had learned to fight for Earth. Jack activated the CUM system. broadcasting a message to every satellite and communication channel he could access. His voice rang out, clear and unrelenting. "This is Jack, a human, speaking from Earth. The aliens who have been hunting us, using us as their toys, hear me now. Your time is over. I have escaped your arena, and I bring a warning to every corner of this universe. You cannot control us. You cannot break us. We will not bow down. We are coming for you." The message reverberated through the stars, reaching out across the cosmos to every corner of the alien empire. It was a declaration of war, a declaration that humanity would no longer be a pawn in their games. It was a signal to the aliens that Earth was no longer a quiet, significant planet. Tit was a place that would stand and fight. Jack looked back at the ship, at the beast by his side, and felt the weight of the responsibility that now lay on his shoulders. He had returned, but not for himself. He had returned for Earth, for every human who had ever been forgotten, for every soul who had been treated like an expendable tool in the hands of the powerful. The aliens had underestimated humanity once. They wouldn't make the same mistake. Again, the beast growled softly in agreement, its eyes fixed on the horizon, its bond with Jack unshakable. Together, they would lead the charge. They would take the fight to the stars and show the aliens the true power of humanity. This was not just a battle for survival. It was a battle for the future of Earth and the universe itself. Ready to lead the charge? The universe would soon know the price of underestimating mankind, and it would learn that humans, once awakened, could never be contained.